Let's bring in New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney. She's on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Merry Christmas to you and yours. Let's begin right with that report of these migrants being sent on Christmas Eve, arriving in the middle of the night to Vice President Kamala Harris's home. I just want to start off with, do you agree with this tactic by Governor Greg Abbott of sending migrants to cities like New York City and other places?
Well, Merry Christmas to all of your viewers and to you as well. Look, this is a huge problem that we are facing, probably one of the most egregious problems that we have in this country. And Vice President Kamala Harris has been assigned this task, which she's failing on miserably. We have record numbers of people coming across the border. We have these border states like Arizona and Texas that cannot handle the mass outpouring of people coming in. The Democrats are trying to destroy Title 42. A fix to Title 42, or at least an amendment to it to keep it in place, was rejected. It was a point of big contention in the omnibus spending bill that just passed because the Democrats' left-hand wing doesn't want to do anything about our border. They want to continue to let them flow across the border. So I have to say, I know that the governor is using desperate measures to deal with a desperate situation. And we don't have the resources. I have a bill that is called the Direct Funds to the Border Act, which would take all this money we spent to create 87,000 new IRS agents. That would bring our IRS to the size of the U.S. Marine Corps and redirect that funding to creating border protection and border patrol. Very little was done on this in this massive 1.9, in reality, trillion omnibus spending bill that we just passed in the couple days ago here in D.C.
Let's dig in more on that omnibus bill. We'll talk specifically about, we'll show our viewers what's in there on Border Patrol. CBP getting about $16.7 billion in funding. It's about a $1.8 billion increase. $230 million goes to border technology for security, but there's really, that might just be helping with regular crossings, not really stop with the security there. So what I'm wondering is, if $230 million for security for the U.S., but $410 million for enhanced border security for countries like Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, Tunisia, and Oman, how does that happen?
Well, obviously, they're not taking that seriously. And by the way, this was a bipartisan bill. A small number of Republicans voted for this in the Senate and in the Assembly, or in the Congress, in the House. And that's unfortunate. You know, we're spending more money on foreign affairs, on programs for the UN, which is hostile relations toward our allies like Israel and others. And we're not focusing on the real issues that matter here. Now, there were some good things. You know, we had an increase in defense spending, but overall, this really failed to meet the needs of Americans across the nation and what we're facing in terms of inflation. This is going to make inflation worse. It's going to be even higher. We see all kinds of funding that was done where the Democrats and even some Republicans really just kind of threw up their arms and said, you know, we've got to get all our goodies in before we're done. So they weren't really getting things done. They were getting what they wanted before they're done, which is why you had so many people retiring actually vote for this bill, because they won't be held accountable. Yeah. And I think the people really need to understand that fact.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you this. $1.7 trillion omnibus bill, it's done with no vote. Well, no real debate for the public to see behind closed doors. Do you think that these bills should be tied to defense spending? In other words, should we just take the defense spending and put it in a separate bill so that there can be a real conversation about this? You guys have the power of the purse in Congress. This should be something that's debated for the American people.
Well, complex question. First of all, we do appropriations bills, which, by the way, appropriations under our Constitution is done by the House of Representatives, not the Senate. So we should have done all of these bills in regular order. There's normally 12 appropriations bills. The last time we did these in regular order was 2017. I was in the majority as a Republican then in Congress. We haven't done that. So unfortunately, you're not seeing regular order happen here, which should have been done. So I think that is a big problem. And we could have seen these bills. They could have been debated instead of going through the Rules Committee, which bypasses the availability and the ability of Americans to really see what are in these bills, not to mention Americans, but members of Congress didn't have a chance to read this bill, which is among the many reasons I didn't vote for it. And unfortunately, you had a number of members voting by proxy, and even one member voting by proxy and naming that she was present.
Yeah, obviously.
And she wasn't present. She was voting by proxy. So hypocrisy abounds here we need to come back and really be accountable to the American people. And that's something that we need to do in the future. Obviously, with the Republicans taking over the majority, I think a lot of senators, especially Republican senators, were worried.
Let me ask you real quick. We're just running out of time here. I appreciate you. With Kevin McCarthy, do you think he becomes House Speaker, and does he have your support?
Yes, I've said I would support Kevin McCarthy. I understand people want somebody perfect, but Kevin McCarthy has shown that he has earned the speakership. I think a lot of Senate Republicans supported this because they're worried that the Republicans and the conservatives are going to control the House and make sure that we're accountable and that we're fiscally conservative, and then we bring inflation down. And I think a lot of senators, especially the ones departing, were worried about losing that, not getting what they wanted in this bill. And that's why they kind of threw us under the bus. Especially the retiring ones, as we come to the new session starting next year. Very concerned, but I think Kevin will get the speakership. It's going to be an arduous, interesting struggle, but I think he's going to get there in the end, and I support him.
Yeah, arduous indeed. Interesting also as well. New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and thank you.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to all.